when a substitute teacher, a woman accustomed to the transient rhythm of moving between classrooms and lives, steps into the seemingly ordinary world of a third-grade class. Her sharp eyes, honed by constant adaptation, are drawn to a small girl adrift in an ocean of profound silence. Lily Carter doesn't just choose not to speak. She seems physically incapable of it, a silence so absolute it feels like a tangible presence in the room. Before we dive into the story, let us know where you're watching from in the comments below, and if you believe sometimes it takes an outsider's eye to see what's hidden in plain sight, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that matter. Ms. Anya Sharma, navigating the temporary landscape of Oakhaven Elementary for a 2-week assignment, initially catalogs the behavior extreme shyness, maybe selective mutism triggered by the regular teacher's absence, understandable anxieties for a child so young. She makes the requisite mental notes, prepares to offer gentle encouragement, the standard approach for a quiet student. That professional assessment holds for precisely 2 days, until during a low-pressure reading activity, she witnesses not reluctance, not shyness, but a blinding, primal terror flash across the child's face, a reaction so disproportionate, so visceral, it fundamentally changes everything. Anya, whose own existence often felt like a series of temporary shelters, a carefully curated detachment, her primary shield against the emotional buffeting of constant goodbyes, feels something unfamiliar and fierce ignite within her, a searing, protective instinct that bypasses all her usual safeguards. This classroom, this child, this silence, suddenly feels intensely, irrevocably personal. But nothing, not even her seasoned intuition for unspoken classroom dramas, could prepare her for the truly horrifying reason behind Lily Carter's suffocating, enforced silence. Anya Sharma moved through the education system like a ghost, leaving faint traces in attendance records and substitute logs across half a dozen districts. Substitute teaching wasn't a calling. It was a compromise born from a life recalibrated by unexpected turns, a parent's illness requiring flexible work, a relationship that ended abruptly, leaving plans adrift. She'd adapted, finding a strange rhythm in the lack of permanence. Each Monday morning could bring a new school, a new grade level, a new set of faces, a new temporary identity. She became adept at reading environments quickly, decoding unspoken rules, sensing the subtle currents of classroom politics and student anxieties within minutes of the first bell. Observation was her superpower, developed out of necessity. She noticed the slight tremor in a student's hand as they presented a project, the forced brightness in a colleague's eyes, the way certain children seemed to carry the weight of adult worries on their small shoulders. This acuity served her well, allowing her to blend in, deliver the curriculum, and maintain a professional boundary. Emotional investment was a hazard in her line of work. Caring too much about a student she might never see again after Friday was a quick path to burnout. Her apartment reflected this philosophy: sparse, clean, functional. Books were stacked neatly, clothes folded precisely in travel-worn suitcases ready for the next assignment, walls bare except for a single, abstract print. It was a space designed for easy departure, a quiet pause between temporary roles, though sometimes, in the deep quiet of a Tuesday night after navigating a particularly challenging classroom, the silence felt less like peace and more like a hollow echo of her own unmoored existence. Oakhaven Elementary presented as archetypally suburban, sprawling brick, cheerful bulletin boards overflowing with seasonal art, the distant happy shrieks from the playground. Mrs. Davison's third-grade classroom, room 104, was meticulously organized, laminated posters illustrating cursive letters and multiplication tables, a reading corner filled with colorful beanbags. It bespoke an experienced hand, a stable presence. Anya felt the usual flicker of professional assessment as she familiarized herself with the lesson plans, the seating chart, the list of allergies and accommodations. Then came roll call. Liam Anderson? Here. Chloe Davis? Present. Lily Carter? Silence. Anya paused, scanning the small faces looking up at her. A tiny hand went up, barely clearing the top of the desk in front of it. The hand belonged to a girl so small and pale she seemed almost translucent under the fluorescent lights. Wide, watchful blue eyes, the color of a stormy sky, stared fixedly at the scarred surface of her desk. Her blonde hair, fine as spun silk, fell like curtains around a face held rigidly still. "Okay, Lily," Anya said gently, making a check mark and moving on, registering the lack of verbal response but attributing it, initially, to first-day nerves with a new teacher. But as the hours unfolded, Lily's silence remained absolute, unwavering. It wasn't just quietness. It was a complete absence of vocalization. During group discussions, her lips remained sealed, her eyes downcast. When Anya directed a simple question her way, "Lily, what color is the cat in this picture?" the girl froze, her posture stiffening, before offering a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of her head. Even during recess, amidst the joyful chaos of the playground, Lily stood alone near the fence, watching other children play tag or swing high, her expression unreadable, her hands jammed deep into the pockets of her thin jacket. She didn't hum, didn't whisper, didn't make the involuntary little sounds children often do. Her silence was a fortress, deliberate and impenetrable. Her written work, when collected, was eerily neat, letters formed with painstaking precision, drawings detailed but strangely static, lacking the usual childish exuberance. It was the work of someone desperately trying to comply, to be perfect, to avoid drawing any attention beyond the unavoidable fact of her physical presence. Anya sought out the classroom aide, Brenda Mathis, during lunch duty. Brenda was warm, grandmotherly, a fixture at Oakhaven for 15 years, full of practical advice and school gossip. "Ah, little Lily," Brenda sighed, unwrapping her sandwich. "Bless her heart. Quietest child I've ever encountered. Been like that since she started a couple of months back." Mrs. Davison was worried, of course, trying all sorts of gentle approaches, but not a peep. Brenda lowered her voice slightly. "Transferred in with her older brother, Ethan. He's only 16, maybe 17. Parents work crazy hours, some kind of shift work, rarely see them. Ethan handles everything: lunches, pickups, permission slips. Seems like a good kid, always polite. Says Lily's just naturally reserved, takes time to adjust." Brenda shrugged. "Hard situation, I suppose. Lot of responsibility for a teenager." Anya absorbed this information, a knot of unease tightening in her stomach. A 16-year-old primary guardian? Demanding parental work schedules? It painted a picture of potential stress, instability, perhaps neglect. Later that afternoon, Anya witnessed the pickup interaction herself. Ethan arrived promptly, flashing Anya a quick, polite smile that seemed slightly rehearsed. He was tall, trying to project an adult confidence that didn't quite mask the underlying awkwardness of his age. "Everything okay today, Miss Sharma?" he asked, his voice smooth. Lily materialized silently beside him, her gaze glued to the worn linoleum floor. Anya offered a brief, neutral summary. As Ethan placed his hand on Lily's back to guide her out, Anya saw it clearly this time, the way Lily's small shoulders tensed under his touch, a minuscule flinch before she yielded, her body seeming to contract slightly. Ethan leaned down, his lips close to Lily's ear, murmuring something Anya couldn't catch. But she saw the effect. Lily's head bowed lower, her hands twisting together in front of her. It wasn't the easy, affectionate interaction one might expect. There was an undercurrent of tension, of control, that prickled Anya's heightened senses. It was subtle, deniable, yet deeply unsettling. This micro-cameo, the polite facade juxtaposed with the child's fearful deference, lodged itself firmly in Anya's mind, refusing to be dismissed as mere over-observation. The ordinary backdrop of Oakhaven Elementary, the smell of disinfectant and pencil shavings, the rhythmic squeak of sneakers in the hallway, the cheerful artwork taped to the walls, started to feel subtly distorted, viewed through the lens of Lily's profound and disturbing silence. Anya found herself watching the child constantly, her professional curiosity morphing into something deeper, more urgent. She noticed how Lily meticulously arranged her crayons by color before starting a drawing, how she ate her lunch slowly, methodically, cutting her sandwich into tiny, precise squares with a plastic knife. Her gloved hands. Anya now noticed she sometimes wore thin cotton gloves, even indoors, moving with intense concentration. It struck Anya that perhaps the gloves, like the silence, were another form of concealment, another layer of defense. The silence wasn't passive. It felt active, vigilant. A heavy shield Lily held up against an unseen threat. The conviction grew stronger with each passing hour. This was not shyness. This was terror. The breaking point arrived on Wednesday morning. Anya had planned a simple paired reading activity, hoping the low-stakes interaction with a peer might encourage some participation. She assigned partners, keeping voices low, movement calm. She approached Lily, who was sitting rigidly beside a friendly, outgoing boy named Sam. Anya knelt down beside their shared desk, holding open a brightly illustrated book with large, simple font. "Okay, team," she said softly, aiming for maximum reassurance. "How about you take turns reading just one sentence each? Or Sam, you can read, and Lily, maybe you can point to the pictures that match the words." Sam beamed, eager to start. Lily, however, went utterly still. Her head snapped up. Her eyes, those wide, stormy blue eyes, met Anya's. And what Anya saw there stopped her breath. It wasn't anxiety. It wasn't reluctance. It was pure, unadulterated panic, the look of a cornered animal facing imminent danger. Her face became a stark white mask, her pupils dilating wildly. Her breath hitched in a strangled gasp, and her small hands flew reflexively to her mouth, fingers pressing hard against her lips, knuckles white. A low, keening sound, instantly choked off, escaped before she clamped down harder. Her whole body began to tremble violently, tremors running through her thin frame. As her head jerked back in panic, the collar of her turtleneck shifted slightly, and Anya saw it again, this time more clearly, the scar. A thin, vertical white line, maybe an inch long, running from just below her left nostril down across the cupid's bow of her upper lip. It was faint, clearly healed, but undeniably present, a permanent mark marring the delicate skin around the mouth she guarded so fiercely. Anya reacted instinctively, pulling back, shielding Lily slightly from Sam's bewildered gaze. "It's okay," she murmured, her voice low and steady despite the frantic pounding of her own heart. "It's absolutely okay, Lily. No reading needed. Why don't you just look at the pictures? Or maybe draw a picture about the story instead." She gently pushed a blank sheet of paper and a box of crayons towards Lily, sliding the offensive reading book away. Lily didn't respond, didn't move, except for the continued, violent trembling. Her eyes squeezed shut now, tears leaking from the corners, her hands still locked over her mouth as if physically holding back screams or preventing something horrific from entering. Anya signaled Sam to move to another group, murmuring an excuse about Lily not feeling well. She stayed near Lily's desk for a few moments, projecting calm she was far from feeling, until the trembling subsided slightly, though the hands remained fixed over her mouth. The image of the scar burned in Anya's mind. A scar there, combined with the absolute terror of being asked to speak. The horrifying reason wasn't just a possibility anymore. It felt like a certainty taking shape in the shadows. What kind of trauma connects a physical injury near the mouth with such a profound, deathly fear of vocalization? The implications were sickening. Anya somehow navigated the rest of the morning on autopilot, her thoughts racing, the cheerful classroom noise fading to an irrelevant buzz. The professional distance she usually maintained had shattered. This wasn't just a troubled child. This was a child actively, terrifyingly trapped. When the lunch bell rang, Anya watched Lily meticulously pack away her uneaten food, her movements jerky, her face still pale and strained. The decision crystallized within Anya, sharp and absolute. She couldn't just finish her 2 weeks and walk away. She couldn't leave Lily in this silent prison. She had to find out what was happening. She had to intervene. That afternoon, back in the impersonal quiet of her temporary apartment, Anya opened her notebook. She documented the reading incident in minute detail, Lily's physical reaction, the exact location and appearance of the scar, the duration of the panic response, her own intervention. She added it to her earlier notes about the constant silence, the withdrawn behavior, the unsettling pickup interactions with Ethan. The pages were filling rapidly, a chronicle of mounting dread. Her temporary assignment had just become the most important work of her life. The weight of it settled on her, heavy and cold, but strangely clarifying. She was Lily's only witness, and time was running out. Anya knew she needed to move quickly but carefully. Her status as a temporary teacher made her vulnerable. Accusations without solid proof could be easily dismissed, potentially jeopardizing her ability to help Lily and even her own career. Yet the urgency gnawed at her. Every silent day that passed felt like another layer of cement hardening around Lily's trapped voice. Her first step was to try and subtly gather more context within the school system. She casually asked Brenda, the aide, if she recalled any accidents or incidents involving Lily, perhaps a fall that might explain the scar. A scar? Near her mouth. Brenda frowned, thinking, "No, dear, can't say I noticed anything like that. But then, she's always looking down, isn't she? And sometimes wears those little gloves. Maybe she's just clumsy?" Brenda's response, though well-intentioned, highlighted Anya's isolation. Others saw quietness, perhaps awkwardness. Anya saw terror and concealment. Anya spent her evenings hunched over her laptop in the sterile quiet of her apartment, researching selective mutism, childhood anxiety disorders, and, increasingly, the indicators of child abuse, specifically physical and emotional abuse involving control and intimidation. She read about trauma responses, dissociation, the ways children might be coerced into silence through threats or violence. The descriptions of children living in constant fear, exhibiting hypervigilance, developing specific phobias related to their trauma, it all resonated sickeningly with Lily's behavior. The articles discussing injuries used to enforce silence, particularly around the face or mouth, made Anya's blood run cold. Was the scar evidence of such an act? An act designed to permanently associate speaking with excruciating pain or terror. The possibility was almost too horrific to contemplate, yet it aligned disturbingly well with Lily's extreme reaction. In the classroom, Anya intensified her observation, treating each day like a critical intelligence-gathering mission. She documented everything. The way Lily flinched violently when Anya accidentally dropped a book near her desk, clamping her hands over her mouth instantly. The way Lily meticulously avoided any activity that required oral participation, sometimes feigning a stomach ache or needing the restroom just before her turn. The drawings became more frequent, more disturbing. One showed a small figure locked inside a dark box, mouth crudely scribbled out with black crayon. Another depicted a larger, shadowy figure looming over the smaller one, whose hands were covering its mouth. Anya carefully collected these, dating each one, adding them to her growing dossier of silent testimony. She started noticing small, fading bruises on Lily's arms when her sleeves occasionally rode up, documenting their location and appearance meticulously. They were often in patterns suggesting finger marks, clustered on the upper arms or forearms. She implemented strategies to create opportunities for nonverbal communication, hoping to bypass the block around speech. She used whiteboards for quick answers, thumbs-up/down signals encouraged drawing responses. Lily participated minimally, always cautiously, her eyes constantly darting towards the door or windows, as if expecting imminent discovery or retribution. Anya noticed Lily seemed particularly anxious near dismissal time, her body tensing visibly as the clock ticked towards pickup. Feeling she had gathered enough concerning observations, Anya formally requested the meeting with the school counselor, Ms. Evans. She laid out her findings systematically. The persistent, absolute silence, the extreme phobic reaction to any suggestion of speaking, the visible scar near Lily's mouth, the disturbing drawings, the pattern of bruises, the general hypervigilance and anxiety, particularly around dismissal, and her own unsettling interactions with the older brother Ethan, including his possessive demeanor and Lily's fearful deference. She presented her dated logbook and the collected drawings. Ms. Evans listened with growing alarm, her initial caution shifting to grave concern as Anya detailed the scar and the intensity of the fear response. "Ms. Sharma, this goes far beyond selective mutism," she said, her voice low. "The scar, the bruises you've started noticing, the specific fear tied to vocalization. This paints a very disturbing picture. And Ethan being the primary caregiver adds a significant layer of complexity and potential risk. She examined the drawings, her expression tightening. These are highly indicative of trauma, particularly the recurring motif of the silenced mouth. Ms. Evans agreed that Anya's documentation was thorough and compelling. Mrs. Davison noted the quietness, but not this level of fear or the physical marks. It's possible the situation has deteriorated, or Lily feels slightly safer expressing distress non-verbally with a new person, however paradoxical that sounds. They discussed the next steps. Ms. Evans felt the evidence, particularly the combination of the scar, bruises, and extreme fear associated with speaking, now met the threshold for a mandatory report to Child Protective Services. She commended Anya for her diligence. Your temporary status doesn't lessen your responsibility or the validity of your observations. In fact, your fresh perspective might have been crucial here. Just as they were concluding, agreeing Ms. Evans would make the call immediately, Anya felt a surge of renewed urgency. "There's one more thing," she said hesitantly. "Ethan. He seems protective but also controlling. His politeness feels like a performance. I worry how he'll react." Ms. Evans nodded grimly. "That's why we involve law enforcement alongside CPS in cases with potential physical abuse or intimidation. We need to ensure Lily's safety is paramount during any intervention." The relief Anya felt was tempered by a cold dread. The wheels were in motion, but the confrontation felt terrifyingly close. That afternoon, as if sensing the shift in the atmosphere, Ethan arrived for pickup earlier than usual. He found Anya organizing bookshelves at the back of the classroom. He didn't lean casually this time. He walked directly towards her, his stride tight with tension. "Ms. Sharma," he began, his voice dangerously soft. "We need to talk about Lily." He stopped a few feet away, his eyes, lacking their usual polite veneer, were hard and cold. "I hear you've been asking questions. Talking to the counselor." Anya froze, her hand hovering over a stack of books, her heart hammered against her ribs. "I shared some observations about Lily settling in, yes?" she replied, forcing her voice to remain steady, meeting his gaze directly. "Observations?" Ethan scoffed, a humorless sound. "Lily is sensitive. She doesn't like being pushed, especially about talking. She has issues, things she needs to work through quietly." He took a step closer, invading her personal space. "Some people," he continued, his voice dropping to a near whisper, intense and menacing, "don't understand boundaries. They pry, they interfere, and that can make things much, much worse for everyone involved. Especially for Lily. Do you understand what I'm saying?" The threat was no longer veiled. It was explicit, chilling. He was warning her off, using Lily's well-being as leverage. Anya felt a tremor start in her hands but clenched them into fists at her sides. "My only concern," she said, her voice low but firm, "is Lily's safety and well-being." Ethan stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable but radiating hostility. Then, he abruptly turned as Lily appeared silently by the classroom door, her backpack clutched tightly. He grabbed her wrist. Anya saw Lily wince, and pulled her out of the room without another word, his back rigid with anger. Anya leaned against the bookshelf, shaking, nausea rising in her throat. The raw menace in his voice, the explicit threat, it confirmed the danger Lily was in. She immediately called Ms. Evans, relaying the confrontation verbatim. "He knows," Anya whispered into the phone, her voice trembling. "He knows we're onto him." "Okay, Anya, stay calm," Ms. Evans replied, her voice tight with urgency. "I've already made the report. CPS and Detective Harding are coordinating. Given this direct threat, they're accelerating the plan. They want to intervene tomorrow during pickup. Principal Harrison is fully briefed. We need to get Lily safe." The plan was concrete now, the timeline imminent. Anya felt a surge of fear, not for herself, but for the volatile confrontation that awaited, and for the little girl trapped at the center of it all. The horrifying reason was about to be exposed, and the fallout felt terrifyingly unpredictable. The next day passed in a blur of forced normalcy and gut-wrenching anxiety. Anya taught lessons on autopilot, her mind constantly replaying Ethan's threat, her eyes rarely leaving Lily. The child seemed almost ethereally fragile, her silence today feeling heavier, more profound, as if sensing the impending rupture in her tightly controlled world. Anya struggled to maintain a calm facade for the other students, answering questions about fractions while her stomach twisted into knots. She noted Lily barely touched her lunch, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to open a small juice box. The scar on her lip seemed more prominent today against her pale skin, a constant, silent accusation. Shortly before the final bell, Miss Evans appeared at the doorway, her smile gentle but her eyes serious. She murmured something to Anya, then walked over to Lily's desk. "Lily, honey, Principal Harrison needs to see us for a few minutes in my office. Can you come with me?" Lily looked up, her eyes wide with apprehension, but she slid obediently out of her chair, casting one fleeting, terrified glance back at Anya before following the counselor out of the room. Anya watched them go, her breath catching in her throat. This was it. Lily was being taken to the designated safe room where the CPS caseworker and Detective Harding waited. Anya tried to focus on dismissing the rest of the class, the routine suddenly feeling alien and jarring. Children chattered, gathering backpacks, shouting goodbyes, oblivious to the silent drama unfolding down the hall. Anya moved towards the classroom window, her gaze fixed on the pickup loop outside. She saw Ethan's car pull up, saw him get out, looking impatient. Then, Principal Harrison and Detective Harding intercepted him. Anya couldn't hear the words, but the scene unfolded like a silent movie. Ethan's initial confusion, morphing into disbelief, then explosive anger. He lunged towards the school entrance, but Detective Harding blocked him firmly. Ethan's face contorted, shouting, pointing. Principal Harrison stood impassively, a figure of calm authority. The confrontation was brief but intense. Within minutes, the second police car pulled forward, and Ethan, his face a mask of fury and trapped desperation, was escorted away. Anya sagged against the window frame, relief washing over her in a dizzying wave, so potent it almost buckled her knees. He was gone. Lily was safe. The immediate threat was neutralized. The climax had been swift, decisive, almost anticlimactic after the weeks of agonizing tension. But the silence left in its wake felt different, not empty, but echoing with the gravity of what had just occurred, and the long, uncertain path that lay ahead for Lily. Later, after the school had emptied and an unnerving quiet settled over the building, Principal Harrison and Ms. Evans found Anya sitting numbly at the teacher's desk in the silent classroom. "It's done, Anya," Principal Harrison said, his voice heavy. "Lily is with the CPS caseworker. They're arranging emergency foster placement immediately." Ms. Evans stepped forward, her expression etched with sadness and professional resolve. Detective Harding spoke with Ethan, and Ms. Davis, the caseworker, was able to gently examine Lily. She took a deep breath. "The reason for the silence? It's worse than we imagined." Ethan confessed. He was terrified of Lily revealing ongoing abuse by one of the parents' transient acquaintances, something Lily had witnessed. To ensure her silence, Ethan had been systematically punishing her for any vocalization. Not just speaking, but crying, humming, even involuntary gasps. Ms. Evans' voice trembled slightly. He admitted to methods, including using tape across her mouth for extended periods, and yes, inflicting that injury near her lip with a sharp object early on as a permanent reminder of what happens if she makes a sound. He conditioned her into silence through calculated terror and physical pain directly linked to her mouth and voice. The horrifying reason, stark and brutal, hung in the air. It wasn't just threats. It was systematic torture designed to extinguish a child's voice entirely. Anya felt bile rise in her throat, closing her eyes against the sickening images flooding her mind. The scar, the clamped hands, the absolute terror, it all snapped into horrifying focus. "She's safe now," Ms. Evans repeated, placing a hand briefly on Anya's shoulder. "Because you noticed, because you didn't dismiss it, because you pushed." In the immediate aftermath, Anya felt hollowed out, the adrenaline ebbing away to leave a profound exhaustion. The school implemented the promised changes, revised training focused on subtle abuse indicators and trauma-informed practices, clearer reporting pathways for all staff, including substitutes, and specific protocols for students in vulnerable guardianship situations. It felt like a small institutional course correction in the face of overwhelming darkness. Anya's 2-week assignment was extended slightly. Before she left Oakhaven for good, Ms. Evans arranged for her to have a brief, supervised visit with Lily at the welcoming temporary foster home where she was receiving care. Anya entered the cheerful, sunlit room, her heart full. Lily was at a table with her caseworker, drawing intently. She looked up as Anya entered, her wide blue eyes meeting Anya's directly for a sustained moment. The stark terror was gone, replaced by a quiet, watchful curiosity. Lily wasn't wearing gloves, her small hands moving freely across the paper. Anya knelt nearby, offering a soft smile. Lily looked at her drawing, then back at Anya. Then, with deliberate care, she picked up the drawing, a page filled with bright splashes of color, mostly abstract swirls, but with a tiny, hesitant yellow sun peeking from one corner, and held it out to Anya. As Anya gently took the paper, Lily's lips curved into a small, fleeting, but genuine smile. It was the first true smile Anya had seen from her, illuminating her face for just an instant. In that fleeting smile, offered alongside the gift of her drawing, Anya saw not just survival, but the first, fragile unfurling of a spirit finding sunlight again. Anya thanked her softly, her throat tight with emotion. The silence had been broken by the intervention, not yet defeated in Lily's world, but the journey towards healing, guided by patience, safety, and specialized care, had truly begun. The path to reclaiming her voice would be long, but the first brave steps were being taken. Packing her few belongings from room 104 for the last time felt different. The experience had irrevocably shifted something within Anya. Her transient job no longer felt like simply moving through spaces. It felt like a chance, however brief, to connect, to observe, to potentially make a profound difference. It had underscored the vital importance of vigilance, of trusting one's instincts, and the unexpected weight and purpose that could be found even in temporary roles. As she drove away from Oakhaven, she carefully placed Lily's drawing on the passenger seat. She glanced at the tiny, hesitant son, feeling the lingering weight of the ordeal, but also the profound, unexpected warmth of that small, hopeful smile. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the story, give this video a like if you haven't already, and subscribe for more. When a timid girl slips through the school's front door, clutching a pair of bright pink mittens even though the heater is blasting and spring warmth has arrived, most people scarcely notice. But one watchful teacher sees her flinch, her knuckles white against the soft fabric, and realizes something is deeply wrong. Before we dive into this tale of whispered secrets, hidden bruises, and a teacher's unwavering mission to save a fragile child, let us know where you're watching from. And if you believe in the power of compassion, please like this story and subscribe for more. Ms. Devon had always loved the sleepy hush of the corridors at Glendale Primary before the first bell. She was a morning person, enjoying those few quiet minutes to set out worksheets, write a cheerful message on the whiteboard, and mentally rehearse the day's lessons. She had taught 3rd grade for 5 years now, enough to see patterns, notice subtle shifts in a child's behavior. A lost lunchbox, a scuffle on the playground, a sudden drop in participation. She had grown used to all of it. It was her job to care and to guide them. Still, she had no idea how drastically this year would test her resolve. It began ordinarily enough in early March, when the air started to mellow, the winter's chill receding. Children excitedly shed their bulky jackets, happy to run free in the mild weather. But one child, a new transfer named Isla, kept her mittens on. Pink mittens, slightly worn, the edges fraying. She wore them in class, at lunch, even during quiet reading. At first, nobody questioned it. Some kids have peculiar habits, Ms. Devon thought. Perhaps Isla's hands got cold easily. When Isla joined the class, Ms. Devon made a typical introduction. "Everyone, say hello to Isla. She'll be learning with us from today on." Isla peered from behind her mittens, nodding faintly, her eyes wide and cautious. She had no introduction prepared, no mention of parents or prior school, only a note from the office that read, "Recent foster placement. Approach gently." Ms. Devon had dealt with fosters before. She understood the complexities that could accompany them. Emotional wounds, shuttling between homes, fear of building attachments. She resolved to watch Isla more closely. On the first day, Isla sat quietly at a desk near the middle of the classroom. She seemed bright enough, answering a few math questions softly, though her voice barely rose above a whisper. She kept her mittens on while writing, which was awkward, leading to clumsy pencil grip. Her handwriting looked shaky, with little bits of pink fuzz from the mittens sometimes smudging the paper. During a lull, Ms. Devon suggested, "Isla, you can take off your mittens if they're getting in the way." The girl shook her head quickly, eyes flicking with alarm. "No, ma'am. I like them on." The teacher let it go. Days passed. While most children bounded into class, hats and gloves abandoned in their backpacks, Isla clung to her mittens. She looked overheated, cheeks flushed red, sometimes sweating around the temples, but she wouldn't remove them. Classmates started whispering. One recess, a chatty boy named Grant teased, "It's not winter anymore. Why do you still wear those?" Isla shrank away, hugging her arms. Another girl, Clara, tried a friendlier approach. "You can't grab the monkey bars with mittens. Aren't they too hot?" Isla just stared at the ground. Ms. Devon intervened, ushering them toward a different activity. But she noted the tension in Isla's eyes, the heavy breath as though she felt cornered. Despite Isla's withdrawn nature, academically she was fair, handing in neatly written assignments, albeit with pencil marks smudged by mittens. The teacher tried to glean details about her life, but Isla gave one-liners. "I live with the Meachams," she said, referencing her foster family. "It's okay there." She never elaborated. If someone asked about her parents, she froze. Ms. Devon recognized the pattern. Children in the system often had complicated backgrounds. She decided to give her time to adjust, hoping Isla might settle in. Then winter receded fully. By mid-March, sunlight streamed through the windows, warming the classroom. Kids wore short sleeves, some even sporting sandals. Yet Isla's pink mittens stayed. She occasionally complained about difficulty with certain tasks, cutting shapes, applying glue, or finger painting. Ms. Devon offered to help remove the mittens for art class, but Isla refused, voice trembling with apology. "My hands don't want to come out," she whispered, eyes brimming with unspoken fear. Ms. Devon felt a chill. She made a note in her teacher journal. Isla refuses to remove mittens in any situation. Possibly an anxiety issue? Self-harm scars? Must monitor. A few days later, near the end of the school day, Ms. Devon overheard some girls in the hallway. "Isla's so weird with those mittens. Maybe her hands look gross." Isla passed them, hearing every word, her shoulders rigid, face reddening behind her hair. She said nothing, but Ms. Devon caught her in that moment, heartbreak evident. She approached, placing a gentle hand on the child's shoulder, asking if she was okay. Isla just gave a tight nod, tears threatening to spill. "I'm fine," she murmured. Ms. Devon guided her back to class, letting the matter rest for the moment. She felt a growing sense of alarm. Kids teased each other often, but Isla's reaction seemed deeper than embarrassment, almost terror. Everything shifted one afternoon in early April. They were walking back from music class in a single-file line. The hallway bustled with students from various classes. Isla, as usual, kept her head down, arms hugging her chest, pink mittens visible in the crowd. Suddenly, a group of older students ran by, jostling the line. Isla stumbled, losing her balance. She reached out reflexively to steady herself, and one mitten slipped off. In that brief second, Ms. Devon, trailing behind to keep watch, saw Isla's bare left hand. It was covered in angry red bite marks, teeth imprints that left raw welts, some older scars layering around them. Horror seized the teacher. She rushed forward as Isla scrambled to pull the mitten back on, tears welling up. Isla, who bit you? Are you okay? She tried to sound calm, but her voice shook. The girl clutched the mitten in place, face pale. I do it sometimes, Isla whispered. I'm not supposed to show. Then she burst into sobs, turning away, mitten firmly zipped back onto her hand. The line of classmates gaped, startled. Ms. Devon quickly ushered the group on, then beckoned Isla aside, heart pounding. In a quiet corner near the nurse's station, she knelt beside Isla. Sweetheart, that's not normal. Are you hurting yourself? Or is someone else biting your hands? We can help you. Isla shook her head frantically, tears streaming. Please, I can't talk about it. They said I'm not allowed. Ms. Devon's stomach twisted. She recognized a hallmark of abuse. A child threatened into silence, possibly by fosters or siblings. She gently took Isla's mittened hand, feeling the child tremble. We'll see the nurse, okay? Isla whimpered. No, please, I'll be in trouble. But Ms. Devon insisted. She needed documentation. Ms. Adams, the school nurse, listened carefully as Ms. Devon explained. They gently coaxed Isla to remove the mitten for just a minute, but the girl resisted fiercely, sobbing uncontrollably. Ms. Adams decided to photograph the portion of the hand that had been exposed, the glimpses of welts. Isla cowered, as though any minute someone might barge in. Ms. Devon assured her repeatedly, "You're safe here." Ms. Adams wrote a nurse's report, then recommended that Ms. Devon file a suspicion of abuse form with Child Protective Services. The teacher complied without hesitation. That evening, Ms. Devon couldn't sleep, replaying the sight of those bite marks. She dreaded the idea that someone in the foster home was biting Isla's hands, or that the child was forced to do it herself as some twisted punishment. She typed up a thorough account of the day's events, emailed it to her principal, Ms. Arthur, and attached the nurse's note. Ms. Arthur responded promptly, saying she'd support the report and contact the foster agency. They both hoped CPS would intervene swiftly. CPS arrived 2 days later, scheduling a quick interview with Isla and the Fosters, the Meachams, Vanessa and Kyle. This was the first time Ms. Devon saw them in person. They came across as polite, well-dressed, reciting how they'd fostered children for 5 years successfully. We have a sweet home environment, Vanessa Meacham insisted with a bright smile. Isla sometimes picks at her hands or bites them out of anxiety. We've tried everything to stop it, but she's a very anxious child. Isla, sitting beside them, nodded mechanically, eyes lowered. The caseworker asked if she wanted to say anything else about the bruises. She just shook her head, softly echoing that she sometimes bit her hands. Ms. Arthur, observing from the side, looked perplexed. She couldn't contradict the Fosters without direct proof. The nurse's photos only showed partial impressions, which could be argued as self-inflicted. The caseworker concluded that while concerning, it might be a self-harm habit. The Meachams were advised to seek therapy for her. No official action was taken. The Fosters left with their heads high, Isla trailing them, face expressionless. Ms. Arthur patted Ms. Devon's arm. We tried, but the teacher felt unsettled. Something deeper lurked beneath the explanation. Over the next week, Isla grew more withdrawn. She rarely spoke, mittens always on, sometimes trembling. Ms. Devon noticed her flinching whenever a student barked like a dog, or made a biting motion in play. One day, a boy named Derek teased her by growling, playing a monster. Isla cringed, covering her ears, half screaming, "No crate! No crate!" The entire class froze. Ms. Devon took her aside, heart racing. Why did you say that? Is there a crate at home? Isla just stared blankly, tears rolling, then mumbled, I didn't mean to talk, and fell silent again. Ms. Devon felt a wave of dread. The child was obviously traumatized, possibly locked in a crate. She documented everything in her personal log. She approached Ms. Arthur about pressing CPS again. The principal hesitated, warning about false accusations, the school's liability. We can't keep calling them without new evidence, Ms. Arthur said gently. They'll just say we're interfering. Furious but determined, Ms. Devon decided to handle it more quietly. She reached out to an old friend, Detective Rena Cole, who sometimes handled child welfare cases for the district. Cole listened gravely, examined Ms. Adams's partial photos, the logs about crate references, biting mittens. "I sense real abuse," Cole said. "But we need something more concrete to push for an invasive search. The Fosters are well regarded, so the system's slow to challenge them." She advised Ms. Devon to keep watch for any new clues or patterns. One day, Isla missed school unexpectedly. The Fosters didn't call. After lunch, a caretaker from the front office said Ms. Meacham phoned, claiming Isla was ill. Something about the caretaker's tone suggested the conversation felt off, like Ms. Meacham was anxious. Isla returned the next day, even more subdued. Ms. Devon tried to ask if she was feeling better. Isla nodded, refusing eye contact. The teacher noticed fresh bruises on her wrists, just visible above the mitten cuffs. She tried to question her, but the girl repeated the same line, "I hurt myself by accident." Ms. Devon's tension grew. She discreetly took another picture, though it wasn't official. She debated next steps. Time drifted toward late April. The weather turned balmy, kids wore t-shirts and shorts, but Isla's pink mittens stayed. She now wore them with short sleeves, an odd combination. The class teased less, mostly ignoring her. She rarely engaged in group tasks. Ms. Devon's attempts at tutoring found the child's reading progress stunted by stress. She stammered, fiddling with her mittens. Once, Ms. Devon tried a gentle approach. "Isla, your mittens might hinder your writing. Should we try some time without them?" The child nearly cried, voice trembling. "No, please. I don't want trouble." That phrase hammered at the teacher's heart. Clearly, someone threatened punishment if her hands were exposed. Possibly the Fosters or an older child in the home. She recorded more notes, feeling the system ignoring her pleas. Then a small turning point arrived. Isla, in the quiet of free reading time, slipped a note onto Ms. Devon's desk. It read, "I'm sorry I can't show my hands. I get in trouble if I do. Please don't make me." The teacher's chest twisted. This was the child's coded admission that the Fosters or someone in the house enforced the mittens. Ms. Devon used the note, along with previous photos, and called Detective Cole again. Cole said, "We might push CPS for an unannounced check." Ms. Devon reminded her that last time, the Fosters deflected with the self-harm story. "If we get a statement about the crate," Cole said, "that might do it." The teacher planned carefully, trying to find a moment to talk quietly with Isla, hoping the child might mention the crate again. But the girl was petrified to open up. A few nights later, Ms. Devon lay awake, reliving her conversation with the sobbing child. She remembered the first time she saw those bite marks. The next morning, she decided to contact the Fosters directly, see if she could glean any sign of suspicious behavior. She phoned the Meachams, politely asking for a meeting about Isla's academic progress. Ms. Meacham was curt. "We're quite busy. If it's not mandatory, I'll pass." The phone clicked off. Red flags soared in the teacher's mind. The next day at school, Ms. Devon found Isla in the hallway, rummaging for something in her backpack. The teacher softly approached, noticing the child's face was red, eyes puffy. "Is everything all right?" she asked. Isla sniffled, nodding. Then Ms. Devon knelt, gently. "I know you can't talk about it, but if you're scared at home, we can protect you. No one is allowed to hurt you. If you ever need help, just let me know." Isla's lip quivered behind the scarf of her coat. She whispered, "He says no telling or else I get the crate." Then she clapped a mittened hand over her mouth, eyes wide with horror, as if she'd said too much. She scurried off to class. Ms. Devon stood, heart pounding. She finally had a direct mention that someone threatened the crate. She marched to Ms. Arthur, urging immediate action. Ms. Arthur was wary, reminding her the Fosters denied everything. But the teacher insisted they pass this new statement to Detective Cole. Ms. Arthur reluctantly agreed. Ms. Devon typed up a statement. "Child references crate punishment." Cole, upon receiving it, pressed the matter. She pitched the case to the local judge, stating they had repeated hints of forced concealment, bruises, a mention of a crate, and a child's terrified disclaimers. They sought a warrant for an unannounced home search. The judge hesitated, wanting more direct evidence, but Cole persevered, referencing prior fosters who had occasionally reported suspicious injuries in the Meacham home. Finally, the judge allowed a surprise inspection with forensic support. The operation happened on a Thursday afternoon, when the Fosters were presumably home. Ms. Cole coordinated with CPS and local police. Ms. Devon waited anxiously at school. If the Fosters discovered the plan, they might hide evidence or worse. She fidgeted through the day, checking her phone often. Ms. Arthur, noticing her tension, quietly said, "I hope it ends well." The final bell rang. Kids scurried out. Isla went into the pickup zone, looking as anxious as ever. Ms. Devon walked her there, giving a gentle squeeze to her shoulder. The child trembled, blinking tears. "You told them?" she whispered. The teacher nodded, voice quivering with empathy. "Yes, sweetie, but it's to keep you safe." Isla sniffed, nodding. The Fosters arrived, Ms. Meacham wearing a forced smile, shepherding Isla away. Ms. Devon watched them vanish, praying the upcoming search would yield truth. Hours passed with no word. That evening, Ms. Cole finally called, her tone grim but relieved. "We found it. A crate in the basement." Isla's mittens were hidden in the laundry, bloodstains inside, presumably from bite wounds. The Fosters are in custody. There was also a teenage foster brother, Jax, who apparently inflicted some of the bites. They used the crate to punish or separate them. Both Fosters are arrested for child endangerment. Jax is in juvenile custody. Ms. Devon felt equal parts horror and relief. She asked about Isla's condition. Cole said the girl was physically rattled but safe. They were placing her in emergency care, checking for deeper trauma. Ms. Devon's eyes filled with tears. She thanked Cole profusely, heart pounding with gratitude that the child was rescued. The next morning, Ms. Arthur shared the news discreetly with the staff. The Meacham Fosters had been arrested. Isla was in protective custody. The staff was told not to discuss details openly, but Ms. Devon was known among them as the one who spearheaded the discovery. Some colleagues gave her discreet nods of respect or murmured, "You did the right thing," which comforted her. But Ms. Devon's concern remained. Would the child truly find a stable home? How deep were her wounds? Isla, absent from school for the next week, was placed in a specialized foster center. Ms. Cole said she was reeling from the trauma, nightmares about the crate, the biting, the forced concealment of her injuries via mittens. The Fosters apparently forced her to wear them so teachers or neighbors wouldn't see the bite marks, punishing her severely if she tried removing them. Jax, the older foster sibling, had violent tendencies from a troubled past. The Meachams, craving the financial benefits of multiple fosters, hid his aggression. Ms. Cole explained that, ironically, he was also a victim of the Fosters' cruelty. The entire household was a twisted, damaging environment. Ms. Devon realized with a pang that if they hadn't intervened, Isla might have faced escalated violence. One day, Ms. Cole arranged for Ms. Devon to visit Isla at the specialized home. The teacher arrived feeling anxious, not sure if the child would resent her for exposing her secrets. She found Isla in a quiet room, wearing borrowed clothes, no mittens in sight. The child's hands looked raw, healing scabs from repeated bites. She sat with her gaze on the floor. When Ms. Devon approached, softly greeting her, Isla blinked tears, whispering, "You came." The teacher sat beside her, heart aching. "Of course I did." Isla started to cry, stammering apologies about lying, about not telling. Ms. Devon gently hushioned her. "It's not your fault. I'm proud you were brave enough to let me see. You didn't deserve any of that." The child's sobs turned to a shaky hug, burying her face in the teacher's shoulder. In the following weeks, Ms. Devon visited regularly. Isla was slow to trust, but each day the teacher read short stories, helped with simple crafts. The child's hands, still tender, flinched at sudden touch. She sometimes wore bandages but no mittens. She was learning that it was safe to let her hands breathe. Meanwhile, Ms. Cole pressed charges. The Fosters faced multiple counts of abuse, endangerment, and fraud for concealing Jax's violent past. The possibility existed that Jax might be placed in a rehabilitative facility if the court recognized he was also victimized. The entire situation was messy, but at least Isla was free. When Ms. Devon tried to find a stable adoptive option for Isla, she discovered the system was swamped. The specialized foster center was designed for temporary care, but some children ended up staying longer than intended. Isla, shy and traumatized, was deemed a child with special emotional needs. The staff worried about finding a family willing to handle potential nightmares, anxiety, or fear of physical contact. Ms. Devon, seeing the child's heartbreak, felt compelled to do more. She found herself forming a bond that went beyond teacher duties. One afternoon, Isla asked quietly, "Where will I go now?" Ms. Devon's heart twisted. "Somewhere safe with a good family," she said, though she knew the system's uncertainties. Isla nodded, eyes down. "I'm scared." The teacher gently took her bandaged hand. "I won't let anything happen to you," she promised. The vow resonated in her own mind. Could she adopt Isla herself? Was that even possible, given she was just a third-grade teacher, single, with a modest apartment? The idea formed in her heart, yet she hesitated. She confided in Ms. Cole, who said, "It's not easy, but if you're serious, the system might consider it. You have a stable job, a bond with the child. You'd have to go through an in-depth process." Ms. Caldwell, hearing the news, wholeheartedly supported it. "I can't picture a better person for her," she said, tears in her eyes. "You already saved her once." The more Ms. Devon thought about it, the more certain she became. She recalled the day she saw those vicious bite marks. Something in Isla's eyes awakened a fierce maternal protectiveness. She approached the foster center staff, expressing interest. They were surprised but open, explaining the lengthy steps: background checks, home studies, training. She started the application. Isla, when told of the possibility, brightened, though fear lingered that it might fall through. Ms. Devon reassured her, "I'll do everything in my power. You deserve a real home." The child's eyes welled, her hand gingerly interlacing with the teacher's, the old scars still visible. While the adoption process ground forward, Ms. Cole's investigation revealed more chilling details. The Meachams forced Fosters to hide injuries. They used Jax's aggression as a form of control, punishing younger Fosters with his bites. They threatened the crate if Fosters disobeyed. Ms. Cole said the evidence was enough to secure convictions. Ms. Caldwell commented that she'd never seen such cruelty in their otherwise quiet suburb. Ms. Devon felt outrage swirl, determined to ensure no child faced that horror again. She lobbied Ms. Arthur to implement stronger training for staff on spotting hidden abuse. The principal agreed, praising her vigilance. Meanwhile, Ms. Devon balanced her normal teaching duties with frequent visits to Isla, writing lesson plans at night, fueling herself with coffee and devotion to the child's well-being. Gradually, Isla's emotional wounds began to mend. She allowed staff to remove her bandages for short intervals, letting her skin breathe. She started using her bare hands to draw, discovering a gentle passion for coloring pastels. She rarely spoke of Jax or the Fosters, but one day, she confided in Ms. Devon that Jax wasn't always cruel. "He was scared too," she said, tears brimming. "They told him to do it or else." The teacher recognized the complicated dynamic, both children victims of a twisted environment. She quietly passed that info to Ms. Cole, who said she'd mention it to the court, though it didn't excuse Jax's violence. As May approached, the adoption process advanced. Ms. Devon underwent a thorough home inspection. She tidied her cozy apartment, set up a small bedroom for Isla with a bright comforter and a desk for homework. She worried about finances. Teacher salaries were modest, but her heart refused to let the child drift into more Fosters. She prayed the system would see her sincerity. Ms. Cole, Ms. Arthur, Ms. Adams, all wrote references praising her compassion and stability. The social worker assigned to the adoption seemed impressed by how deeply Ms. Devon cared about Isla's healing. Finally, early June arrived. The school year ended, students scattered into summer. Isla was still at the specialized center, waiting. One muggy afternoon, the phone rang. The adoption committee had approved Ms. Devon as a prospective adoptive parent. She nearly cried with relief. They scheduled a final hearing for mid-June. She raced to the center, sharing the news with Isla, who listened with wide eyes. "Does that mean I can come live with you for real?" the child whispered, still doubting. Ms. Devon nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes, if that's what you want." The girl let out a trembling breath, slowly removing her bandaged glove to hold the teacher's hand. "I want to," she said, voice cracking. The hearing day dawned hot and bright. Ms. Devon wore a neat blouse, her nerves taut. Ms. Cole and Ms. Caldwell sat in the small courtroom for moral support. Isla arrived with a caretaker from the center, wearing a simple summer dress, hands unbandaged, though faint scars remained. She clutched a small stuffed rabbit in place of the old mittens. The judge read the file: the child's rescue from an abusive foster environment, the teacher's role in discovering it, the child's strong bond with the teacher. The judge asked Isla gently, "Would you be happy living with Ms. Devon as your adoptive mom?" Isla looked at the teacher, tears shining. "Yes, she sees me." The judge, voice warm, declared the adoption granted, hammered the gavel lightly. Applause and hushed sniffles from Ms. Cole and Ms. Caldwell followed. Ms. Devon knelt, arms open. Isla rushed into them, sobbing with relief. Ms. Caldwell snapped a discreet photo, capturing the child's radiant smile. That evening, they drove to the teacher's apartment, which was now truly their shared home. Isla looked around shyly, stepping into her new bedroom. The bed had pink sheets, the child's favorite color, ironically matching the old mittens. A small dresser, curtains letting in the late-day sun. "It's really mine?" she asked, voice trembling. Ms. Devon nodded, hugging her softly. "Yes, your very own. No crates, no locks. Just us, safe together." The child burst into tears, but they were tears of relief. The teacher stayed with her until she calmed. Then they ordered pizza in celebration. The early weeks of living together were an emotional roller coaster. Isla had nightmares, woke up screaming about biting or locked crates. Ms. Devon rushed to her side, soothing her, promising it was over. The girl struggled with simple freedoms, sometimes asking if she could use the bathroom or if she deserved dinner. Having internalized the foster's cruelty, each question broke Ms. Devon's heart, but she patiently reaffirmed that Isla had the right to normalcy, to choose her meals, to walk around unafraid. Therapy sessions began with a counselor specialized in child abuse recovery. Isla slowly learned to trust that no punishment awaited her if she revealed her hands or made mistakes. One day, Ms. Caldwell visited, bearing a small welcome gift: new pastel crayons and colored pencils. Isla grinned shyly, remembering how she once dreaded art class due to her mittens. That night, she drew pictures with her new supplies, stashing them in a folder. Over time, she grew bolder, painting small watercolor scenes, sometimes referencing bright flowers or open fields, as if reclaiming her sense of security. Ms. Devon praised her at every turn, making sure not to push too far. She recognized that healing took time, that scars in a child's mind didn't vanish overnight. Meanwhile, the criminal trial for the Meachams proceeded. Ms. Cole testified about the crate, the documented injuries, the foster's deception. Jax was also in a separate juvenile facility under psychological evaluation. Isla wasn't required to testify, thanks to the overwhelming physical evidence. She only gave a brief statement through the child advocate. The Fosters received heavy sentences for child endangerment, with potential additional charges based on Jax's statements. Ms. Caldwell told Ms. Devon that hearing about the crate confirmed their worst fears. Ms. Devon just felt relief that the Fosters couldn't reach Isla again. Summer passed, and Isla prepared to enter 4th grade at Glendale Primary. No longer Ms. Devon's student, but her daughter. Ms. Arthur, the principal, found it somewhat unconventional for a teacher to adopt a former student, but given the extraordinary circumstances, she wholeheartedly supported it. The staff embraced Isla's new status, showering her with gentle welcomes, ensuring she wasn't singled out. The child, still quiet, grew more confident with each passing day. She no longer wore mittens, revealing hands that still bore faint bite scar patterns. If classmates asked, she simply said, "I got hurt before, but I'm better now." Some teased lightly, but her new friends defended her. Ms. Devon, always watchful, ensured the teachers recognized her triggers. Over time, Isla laughed more, played on the swings, and even tried out for a small drama skit, though stage fright limited her role to a background cameo. One crisp autumn day, Ms. Caldwell invited them over for a small get-together, celebrating how far they'd come. Ms. Cole dropped by too in casual clothes, no official business. They shared stories of the rescue, the heartbreak, and the triumph. Isla listened quietly, occasionally chiming in with a soft giggle or a shy remark about how she used to dream about Ms. Devon finding her in the crate. Ms. Caldwell teared up, hugging her gently, saying she was proud. Ms. Cole toasted Ms. Devon for refusing to back down, even when faced with dismissive responses from the principal or CPS. The teacher blushed, murmuring, "I just did what any caring adult would do." They all knew not everyone would have gone that extra mile. As the year wore on, life settled into a routine. Isla blossomed academically, discovered she loved reading adventure novels featuring brave heroines. She occasionally asked questions about her future, her birth parents, or whether she'd see Jax again. Ms. Devon answered cautiously, explaining that Jax was receiving help for his own trauma. The child sometimes expressed empathy for him, recalling moments he'd apologized for biting, or how he was punished too. Ms. Devon found it remarkable that a child so hurt could still harbor compassion. She realized that was Isla's strength, an innate kindness that survived the foster's cruelty. At times, Isla faced setbacks. A sudden bark from a neighbor's dog triggered flashbacks. She'd freeze, heart pounding, as if expecting the crate. Ms. Devon calmly reminded her it was over, that no one would confine her again. Therapy exercises helped her identify triggers, reassure herself. It wasn't easy, but each episode diminished in intensity over time. Ms. Cole, hearing updates, told Ms. Devon that Isla's resilience was a testament to the supportive environment at Glendale and the unwavering care of a teacher-turned-mother. Ms. Devon felt gratitude for the entire network that had aided in the rescue. By winter break, the child who once hid her battered hands in pink mittens was now comfortable wearing normal gloves only when it was truly cold. She overcame the haunting association with hand coverings. She even crocheted a small scarf in a crafts class, giggling that maybe she'd try new pink mittens for style, not as a cage. She was reclaiming symbols of her trauma, turning them into something playful. Ms. Devon recognized the milestone, praising her creative spirit. Spring arrived again, marking roughly a year since Isla first stepped into the classroom with those mittens. The difference was night and day. She had a stable mother, a cozy bedroom, an evolving sense of self. The nightmares were sparse now, though occasionally she'd cry in her sleep about biting or captivity. Ms. Devon was always there, soothing her. The teacher's own life changed, too, less free time for social outings, more responsibilities. But she never regretted it. She found joy in the routine of preparing lunches, reading bedtime stories, listening to Isla's daily experiences. Ms. Caldwell teased that she was glowing with maternal pride. Ms. Devon just smiled, feeling she had found a deeper purpose. One morning in late April, Ms. Arthur announced a parent-child art showcase, encouraging families to collaborate on a project. Isla eagerly asked if Ms. Devon would join. They decided to do a painting that celebrated hands, strong, expressive hands that symbolized freedom. Over nights, they sketched designs, painting on a large canvas. Isla used swirling pastel colors reminiscent of her earlier therapy art, leaving one corner with images of old mittens, then phasing into open, unburdened hands. The final piece was titled Brave Hands. On the night of the showcase, families roamed the school's multipurpose room, admiring the displays. Isla shyly stood by Ms. Devon, wearing a simple outfit, both hands uncovered, paint flecks on her fingers. Parents paused, reading the short caption about how these hands overcame fear. The response was moving. Some recognized hints of the child's backstory. Miss Caldwell had tears in her eyes. Miss Cole came, praising the artwork's beauty. Ms. Arthur told them it was a highlight of the event. Isla smiled widely, gripping Ms. Devon's hand, whispering, "We did it." The teacher nodded, eyes shining, recalling how many tears that child once shed in silence. This was a new chapter, one of healing shared openly. As time advanced, the matter with the Fosters concluded in court. They received prison sentences. Jax, the older foster sibling, was placed in a juvenile rehabilitation program. Miss Cole told Ms. Devon that he sometimes wrote remorseful letters, addressing how he, too, was forced by the Fosters. Isla never read them, not ready. She told Ms. Devon she forgave him but didn't want contact. "Maybe someday," she said softly. The teacher respected that boundary. By the next year, Isla soared academically, excelling in reading and writing. She wrote short stories about imaginary princesses who overcame invisible cages. Ms. Devon, reading them, recognized references to crates and locked doors. But the endings were triumphant. The teacher realized writing was the child's way of rewriting her own narrative, this time with a fearless outcome. Miss Caldwell, upon hearing about Isla's stories, said she might become a writer. Ms. Devon laughed, recalling the timid child who rarely spoke a year ago. Indeed, the transformation was remarkable. Eventually, Ms. Arthur retired, replaced by a new principal. Ms. Devon remained in third grade, continuing her teacher role with fervor, but now with a personal perspective on how crucial vigilance was. She adapted her approach, quietly scanning each new child for signs of hidden distress. She no longer ignored small signals like an odd piece of clothing that never came off. She shared her story at staff training sessions, omitting explicit details to protect Isla's privacy, but emphasizing how the pink mittens were a bright flag of hidden pain. Some teachers found it eye-opening, resolving to be more aware. Ms. Cole, still the district's main detective contact, often cited the mittens case as a prime example of teachers not letting an official brush-off stop them. Meanwhile, Isla approached middle school with confidence. She remained close to Ms. Caldwell, occasionally writing her notes about new creative projects. She played a small role in a winter school play, no longer terrified of an audience. Ms. Devon marveled at her progress, though she never forgot how the child used to cringe at the smallest loud noise. One day, while rummaging through old drawers, Isla stumbled upon the pink mittens. She brought them to Ms. Devon, a mix of nostalgia and distaste in her eyes. "Do we need these anymore?" she asked. The teacher gently responded, "Only if you want to keep them." Isla shook her head, a small grin forming. "Let's give them away. I'm done with them." They donated the mittens to a charity, not disclosing their dark history. Ms. Devon recognized it as the final symbolic release. High school arrived and Isla thrived. She joined the art club, painting larger canvases about themes of resilience and hope. Her counselor in therapy said she made enormous strides, though some scars would linger. Ms. Devon, now balancing a teen at home, navigated typical adolescent challenges: curfew disagreements, new friendships, first heartbreak. Through it all, the bond between them held strong, a testament to what started as a teacher's refusal to ignore suspicion. Ms. Caldwell teased that the child was blossoming into a strong, empathic young adult who might one day help other fosters. Indeed, Isla confided that she wanted to volunteer at a local children's shelter. "I know how it feels to be scared and alone," she said. "I want them to see that it can get better." Another year passed. Ms. Cole reached out, letting them know that Ms. Meacham wanted to appeal her sentence. The judge quickly dismissed the petition as baseless. This triggered mild anxiety in Isla, but Ms. Devon reassured her that the Fosters had no right over her anymore. She was legally and permanently the teacher's daughter. That fact offered profound security. The nightmares, which had sporadically plagued her, faded further, replaced by calmer dreams of painting or reading with Ms. Devon. The teacher, seeing these changes, realized the immensity of the child's transformation from a trembling silhouette in pink mittens to a young woman forging her future. Eventually, high school graduation day came. Isla stood at the ceremony in a cap and gown, scanning the crowd for Ms. Devon. She found her adoptive mother in the audience, tears shining, Miss Caldwell at her side, Miss Cole further back. The speeches soared, typical talk of new horizons. Isla didn't have a main speaking role, but her name was called with honors in art. The applause was warm, though few knew her backstory. She walked across the stage, face radiant, both hands free, receiving her diploma. Ms. Devon sobbed quietly, remembering how those hands once hid behind mittens, bruised and trembling. They'd come so far. That night, they celebrated with a small group, including Ms. Caldwell, Ms. Cole, and Ms. Adams. They reminisced about the day Isla stumbled in the hallway, losing a mitten, exposing a bite-ridden hand. The child laughed, albeit with a hint of sadness. It felt like the worst day then, but maybe it was the best, because that's when Ms. Devon knew. The teacher nodded, voice husky. It was the day I realized how much you needed someone to see you. Ms. Cole raised a toast to the unstoppable synergy of teacher vigilance and child courage. Ms. Caldwell said it was a testament to how small actions, like stepping forward with suspicion, saved a life. Isla smiled softly. You all saved me, she said, and now I get to live free. Though the story might have ended there, life continued. Isla enrolled in college for social work, determined to help children in the system. She wanted to advocate for fosters with trauma, ensuring they never faced forced concealment. She updated Ms. Caldwell about her classes, texted Ms. Cole about potential volunteer opportunities. Ms. Devon, still teaching 3rd grade, glowed with pride each time she recounted Isla's growth. She often told her new colleagues, never overlook a child's odd clothing or behavior. It might be a cry for help. The younger teachers listened, some recalling the pink mitten case as a local legend. Eventually, Ms. Devon decided to chronicle their journey in a personal blog post, omitting names, preserving privacy. She recounted how a child's pink mittens once shielded bite marks, how the fosters nearly escaped accountability, how perseverance and a small circle of caring adults tore down the walls of silence. The post circulated among teacher forums, prompting heartfelt messages from educators nationwide, some sharing their own stories of intervening. Ms. Caldwell said she never felt prouder of their district for championing child safety. Ms. Cole joked that she'd become the face of unofficial, unstoppable detective liaison. They all recognized that Isla's rescue changed the entire culture of Glendale Primary. Back in the present, Isla, now a young adult, sometimes visited Ms. Devon's classroom to speak to new teachers about recognizing child abuse signs. She shared anecdotes carefully, describing how easy it was for fosters to hide bruises or threaten children into silence. The new teachers asked thoughtful questions, astounded by the great detail. Isla calmly explained that she'd have stayed locked in that world if not for a teacher who insisted on investigating. Each time, Ms. Devon felt a fresh wave of gratitude for the synergy that saved the child she now called her daughter. Finally, after many years, Ms. Devon retired from Glendale. At her farewell gathering, a montage of staff photos was shown. One was from the art showcase, Isla standing beside a painting of open, free hands. Another was a younger Isla in a pink jacket, mittens barely visible. The staff clapped. Ms. Caldwell gave a short speech about the teacher who noticed. Ms. Cole, in the back, nodded approval. And then, from the crowd, emerged Isla, grown and poised, holding a small framed image. It was the painting of 2 open hands. She offered it to Ms. Devon, voice trembling. I made this when I moved in with you, remember? To celebrate that I never had to wear mittens again. Ms. Devon accepted it, tears streaming, hugging her daughter. That evening, they sat in the quiet living room of Ms. Devon's home, no longer just a teacher's space, but a real family environment. They sipped tea, reminiscing. Isla said softly, Mom, do you remember the day you found my bite marks? I was so sure I'd be punished. But you saved me. The older woman nodded, choking on emotion. I was determined you'd never face that crate or those fosters again. Isla pressed her palm into Ms. Devon's, the scars faint but present. You gave me these hands back, she whispered. They don't hurt anymore. The teacher wiped a tear, feeling immeasurable pride in how far the child soared. She recognized that each scar told a story of survival, and each day forward was a testament to the power of a teacher's refusal to look away. Years later, Ms. Caldwell, Ms. Cole, Ms. Adams, and Ms. Arthur occasionally met up with Ms. Devon and Isla for lunches, celebrating birthdays or small achievements. They had formed a tight circle from the day Isla's mittens fell off. People in their community sometimes asked if they missed the quiet days before that drama. They all shook their heads, believing that saving a single child was worth every ounce of turmoil. Ms. Caldwell once commented that Isla's presence was a daily reminder that the smallest detail, like a pair of pink mittens, could hide an entire storm of abuse. She'd say, "Now we watch more carefully, and no child in Glendale must face horror alone." As the story of the pink mittens drifted into local lore, Isla grew up, forging her own path. She wrote an essay in college about the day her mittens slipped, how it was both the scariest and best day of her life. It recounted the heartbreak of Foster's, Jax's forced biting, the crate in the basement. But it ended with a line that soared, "In losing my mittens, I found my home." She shared it with Ms. Devon, who wept reading it, vowing she'd remain proud of the child who once cowered and now thrived. Ultimately, the rest was a series of new beginnings. Isla might marry someday, or adopt fosters of her own. Ms. Devon might remain a guiding presence, offering unwavering support. Their story, though anchored in pain, blossomed into hope. In Glendale, teachers like Ms. Caldwell or Ms. Adams taught new staff to never dismiss a child's unusual clothing or behavior. Principals like Ms. Arthur championed deeper training. Detective Cole used the mittens case as an example in her workshops on child welfare, reinforcing how collaborative effort overcame the foster's deception. Each year, Glendale's staff reminded themselves that under the surface of quiet compliance or bizarre outfits, a child might be crying for rescue. And that is how a single teacher's fierce compassion sparked an entire transformation. Because sometimes, children's deepest wounds hide behind a small detail. In this case, a pair of pink mittens. But all it takes is one educator's refusal to look away, one detective's unwavering pursuit of truth, and the unstoppable synergy of caring adults to unravel the cruelty inflicted upon a vulnerable soul. In the end, those mittens that once concealed vicious bite marks were discarded, replaced by open hands free to paint, to hug, to wave in the sunlight. A child found her voice, a teacher found her calling in motherhood, and a community learned that vigilance can save lives. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the story, give this video a like if you haven't already, and subscribe for more.